What's good, everybody? Welcome back to BTM to the Basketball Time Machine, the podcast with former NBA players about former NBA players. Before we get to today's guest, just make sure you hit that subscribe button so you always get notified once we upload a new podcast. So let's talk about today's guest. So today's guest played in the NBA in 1990 and in 1995 for the Utah Jazz. Andy Toolson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So, Andy, growing up, who was your favorite player and why?
Growing up, my favorite player was a guy named Danny Ainge.
Wow.
He happened to play at Brigham Young University, which is where I ended up playing in college. But he was dating my cousin, and he ended up marrying her. And when I was a 12-year-old, he was actually playing professional baseball for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yes.
And he invited me down for a weekend to go. I was able to stay with him in his hotel and go out and shag balls on the baseball field. And then obviously he decided to move from baseball to basketball and played with the Celtics. And I was able to go back and see him play in the playoffs. And so that was he was a guy I looked up to and still do. He's done a great job with the Celtics.
Do you have a favorite team back in the days?
Not really. Pro teams, I guess Utah Jazz, that was the closest team to where I lived geographically. So we used to follow them and get their games on TV. So that was a team I watched and looked up to, and it was kind of fun to be able to play for them later on.
Absolutely. So in 1990, you weren't drafted by any NBA team, but by the Silver Bullets, which were a CBA team. How do you still manage making it to the NBA?
I was married at the time, had a child, and I was actually taking insurance classes to be able to sell insurance, if it didn't work out. And they invited me to the Summer League, which was really a meat grinder. They have about 25 guys, and there's only a couple spots, that they'll invite to veterans camp. So I knew the odds were long, but I was fortunate to play decent enough to get invited back to the veterans camp, come back in October with the real team, and things went well. The limited opportunities I got, good things happened, and I was able to make the team for that first year, which really helped my career.
Yeah. So the Utah Jazz in 1990 were a loaded team. You had Karl Malone, who averaged 29 points that season. You had John Stockton, Jeff Malone, Mark Eaton. So many great players. How was it playing on such a great team?
It was a lot of fun. I was able to start 17 games my rookie year due to injuries. And coming in as an undrafted free agent rookie, that was it was a dream come true. It was just a lot of fun to live the NBA lifestyle and travel and experience everything for the first time as a rookie.
How was it playing under Jerry Sloan?
He was great. Very no nonsense, hard nosed. Just wanted you to play hard. That's really what all he wanted is guys to play hard and play together. And if you did that, he was happy. I really enjoyed playing for him. It was a different experience. I played college ball at BYU, and I told people I heard about 5 swear words my whole 4 year there at BYU. And when I got to the Jazz, my first week, I think I heard more in that first day than I'd heard in 10 years. But it was a different environment, but really good people, and I really enjoyed the experience.
So you played probably with the second best point guard of all time. I think as a teammate, it has to be awesome having John Stockton as a point guard. So every time you're free, you're going to get the ball. How was that experience?
It was great. I was able to attend the Hall of Fame induction ceremony for Karl and John about 5 years ago when they were inducted back in Springfield. Or where was it? In the Naismith Hall of Fame on the East Coast. I can't remember where it was. But that was a great experience to be back there. Jerry Sloan was back there, Frank Layden. A lot of fun to see those guys, go in the Hall of Fame, and well-deserving. I was amazed just watching them play. I remember on the road, I remember thinking how tired I was just from the travel. And these guys are out there playing, 40 minutes a night and getting banged, and everybody's giving them their best shot defensively. And it was amazing to see what they did.
So you already mentioned you started a couple of games in your rookie season. Any player on the team you were surprised that he was even better than you expected?
Well, obviously Malone and Stockton were great players. The guys that were good to me were Mark Eaton. He was 7'4" and just a wonderful person. I enjoyed hanging out with him. Aside from basketball, off the court, they treated me very well. We went out to dinner a lot. They were good guys, and they're at that level. Everybody's pretty darn good, and they all bring something to the table, or they wouldn't be there. Guys like Delaney Rudd, Darryl Griffith, Blue Edwards. These guys were all, good guys and really good players.
So, who was the player you learned the most from?
Ooh, that's tough. The player I learned the most from. That's a tough one. I think you learn a lot from a lot of different people, and try to integrate the things that you see effective in their games into your own game. Jeff Malone was really effective at using screens. He was really good at grabbing a guy's arm and going one way and going out the other way. And so I learned a lot from him, particularly how he made defenders get caught on screens.
All right. So the Jazz made the playoffs that season. Do you remember what your expectation was being in the NBA playoffs for the first time?
I was just happy to be there, to be honest with you. I don't play very much. I got in at the end of blowouts, basically, but and I think we got beat, pretty quickly at the first round against Phoenix, if I remember correctly. The Jazz didn't do much in the playoffs that year, but it was just a fun atmosphere. The NBA playoffs atmosphere is a lot of fun. The intensity is turned up, and it's a big deal. Every play is important, and just a fun environment to be part of that.
So after that season, you played in Italy, you played in the CBA, and you played in Spain. So your European trip was really successful. I even just checked the YouTube video when you played in Spain, so that went pretty well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time in Spain. People treated me very well, and I was fortunate to be in good teams. And yeah, I do speak Spanish.
So what was the biggest difference playing-wise between the States and Europe?
Well, I think that the athleticism in the NBA is unrivaled. I mean, the guys that you're going against, I was a two guard, so I was guarding guys like Clyde Drexler, Michael Jordan, Mitch Richmond. These are some of the best athletes in the world, and on a night in, night out basis. In Spain, I think it's a very high level of basketball. Really good shooters, very fundamentally sound. I likened it to very high level, Division I college basketball. But I think that the NBA is the best league in the world, no question. And the athleticism, the strength, just the athletes that you see in the NBA, it's really amazing. Whereas Europe's a little more, I think there's really good shooters. I think the shooters in Europe can play, in the NBA, but the athleticism is the real difference.
Any player you were really excited about to play against him?
All of those guys. I mean, Chris Mullen was a guy I looked up to, and the Golden State Warriors. He was playing for them then, and I remember starting against them and having to guard him. Tim Hardaway was a guy that I played against in college, and he was with that same team.
So you played against a lot of Hall of Famers.
Yeah, I was fortunate to play against some really good players.
So as I mentioned, you played in Europe and in the CBA, but you fought your way back into the NBA. How difficult was it being on the Jazz but not knowing how long it's going to last?
That was difficult. I signed in July, I think, and right before the season started, they signed, I believe it was Jeff Malone, that second time around. And, I knew what he was making as far as salary, and I was, a tenth of what he was making. And back then they didn't keep 15, 16 guys on the roster like they do now. You just show up to work every day and do the best you can. And you can't control the other, the business aspects of it. And so that's really what I tried to do. It's very difficult mentally sometimes. And there was many times in my career where I knew that if I didn't play well, if our team didn't win, that was going to be the end. And probably 6 or 7 times during my career, I kind of had that feeling like, man, we got to make things happen or bad things are going to happen.
On your NBA career, what would you consider was your highlight of your basketball career?
My highlight was we went into Detroit and played the Pistons, and they had won the championship the year before.
The Bad Boys.
And I hit a 3 to put it into overtime, and we ended up winning the ball game. And that's where I really started believing that I might be able to make it in this league. I might be able to have a shot at making it. And 3 months later, I left for Italy because they didn't guarantee me a contract in the NBA after that first year. But that was a fun night.
What NBA team would you have loved to play for?
Man, any of them. I think, just being in the NBA, I mean, obviously I felt like I was on a really good situation for me, because they appreciated what I could do. And, so much of having a successful professional career is not really being the most talented, most athletic person. But you have to find a niche where you fit in with what the management of whatever team you're playing for wants.
All right, Andy, it was great having you on the show. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been fun. I mean, what former athlete doesn't want to talk about themselves and their career, right?
I was about to say that.
No, it was a lot of fun. It was a great time of my life and really enjoyed it, and loved my time over in Europe.